Even when I've left, I do right by you. I'll be your everything, your blue sky. I go to war, I'll fight. Damn right. Even when I've left, I do right by you. I'll be your everything.
And we're live. I was thinking today that so I'm going to be talking about perception, and I was thinking about like how I felt like my first, let's just say year, how I felt my first year as a stepdad, and my perception of how I thought things were going to go, as opposed to how they actually went. So perception is huge, and that's the reason why I want to talk about it today, because perception can be applied to the way we talk to our kids, the way we talk to our spouse, the way we talk to ourselves. When you put things in perspective and you start to maybe take a step back and look at things from a rational mind, if you can look at it for what it is and not what it could be or what it should, you'll probably have a better chance of fighting your way out of whatever mental block that you have when it comes to being a stepdad. So I mean, it's huge, right? It's really, really big. I wrote a cool thing down about it, which I'm going to read to everybody today. But first and foremost, thank you guys for coming back. This is episode 56. If you have not, please like, subscribe, share. Bigger the platform, more stepdads I can reach. So if you are a subscriber or you found my show, welcome. Please share it with another step parent. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. So how we perceive ourselves as stepdads. So let me tell you my point of view of like what I thought was going to happen. So in my situation, I've got 5 kids, 4 girls, 1 boy. And when I came into this family, their dad had just passed away. So devastation, anger, fear, worry, doubt, all that was playing a huge role on both sides of the fence. And at first, I was naive. I assumed that everybody was going to love me. I'm the guy that's going to, save the day, or I'll be there for you. I can protect you guys. But the reality of that is that I was ignorant to the amount of time and patience that I was going to need in order to find myself in the position that I find myself in today. If I would have continued, just in the first 2 years, if I would have continued to perceive my environment in a way where I'm like, you owe me, you guys should respect me, you should value me, you should see me for who I am, as opposed to just listening and kind of learning, I probably wouldn't be here. And I'm assuming that's where a lot of stepdads find themselves, where they don't feel valued. I mean, one of the biggest obstacles we have as stepdads is that the value, percentage, yeah, the value that you place on us, we feel, again, this is the way I used to feel, we feel like it should be more. Respect is a big thing, because a lot of stepdads my age, so I'm going to be 43 this year, and respect is big. And because we inherently want to parent like our parents, when we don't get the respect that we deserve, we lose it. We get angry at ourselves, we get angry at our spouse, we get angry at the kids, at the situation. That 1 foot out the door becomes a whole leg, and then a whole side of your body, and then before you know it, you're gone. So you have to look at the situation that you're in right now. Whether you are 6 months in, you're about to become a stepdad, you're thinking, your girlfriend has a kid, or your boyfriend has a daughter or son, and that's for the stepmoms, obviously, and you're thinking about becoming a step-parent, right? So, shit, you can even be 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in. And the perception, if you haven't worked on yourself, and I'm always preaching that, right? Yourself, you and your partner, then the kids. If you haven't started working on yourself, if you haven't started doing that mental work on yourself, then your perception will never change. And if your perception does not change, then you will never really find your value within the home. So how we perceive our environment, how we perceive our parenting or how we perceive our marriage, we assume that it's supposed to be one way, and then it ends up being a complete different thing, right? So I want to read this to you guys. Perception is relevant and things might not always seem like they are, which is very true. I want to tell you that like 2 days ago, I find myself talking to my youngest daughter, Afton, and in the midst of talking to her, I was disciplining her on the fact that she holds no real value on anything in the house. So she leaves things everywhere. She doesn't plug in things. She borrows stuff from her sisters and never puts it back. All these things that I wanted, that were just piling up, that I wanted to just let her know, this is what you're doing, how I perceive that what she's doing. And then in reality, so when I started thinking about from a logical point of view, I have to remember that she is 13. She is going to make mistakes. And no matter what we do as parents, no matter how many times we tell our kids, they're still going to do the opposite, right? And a lot of that was my fault because I was not properly communicating with my daughter using her love language. Therefore, the information wasn't getting through. So when I changed my perception on the way that I was talking to her or how I was explaining to what was going on, it woke me up to the communication factor, which then helped me navigate my way through this small problem, but huge when it comes to the connection that I have with my daughter. So I had to change my perception on the way what I was saying, what I was doing, and what I thought was happening, and totally eliminate myself from the scenario. And I was able to come up with a game plan for her and I that has worked perfectly since. So you have to, okay, so step parents in general, we begin our journeys guarded. We begin our journeys expecting this judgment from others. So immediately right off the bat, yes, we love mom. Yes, we love dad. Yes, we love the kids. Yes, we are saying yes to this situation. But we start guarded. We're on the defense. We feel like we're always on the defense. Everybody's after us. Everybody wants us to fail. They don't like us. She hates me. Why is he here? Why is she here? All this stuff that happens as a step parent is if you're not educated properly, it's going to be very, very hard to swim through. So we begin our journeys guarded. We begin our journeys jaded. We begin our journeys expecting things to happen. We begin our journeys assuming that people are going to think a certain way about us. That's why we're really hesitant when we talk about our situation, right? A lot of videos that I make on social media, I use the word step. And if you've seen some of the stuff that I do, I talk about how I own that word. That's a word that reminds me that why I'm here. It is a powerful word to me, not a negative word to me. But that's only because I saw the word step from my POV, my point of view, and I changed my perception on it. And when I did that, I empowered the word. And that was cool. Now, there are a lot of step parents out there. Franco, you gotta stop saying step. You gotta use bonus, or you gotta use, what was another word? Anyway. And the reason they say that is because that word step sits in the back of their subconscious mind, and attached to it is anger, fear, what we are taught about step parents, alcoholics, they're abusers. You see where I'm going with this. So their perception on that word and my perception, we're looking at the same word, and it means something totally different to both of us. So that's what I really want to encourage all you step parents out there to really think about when you're looking at your situation. Eliminate yourself from the scenario and imagine you're just the friend that somebody's coming to ask you for advice about. It's once we eliminate ourselves from the scenario, we can properly give advice that, straight to the point. We'll tell them which way to go, how they should do it, what our thought process is. But then the moment we put ourselves back in the scenario, we immediately start second guessing ourselves, questioning everything that's happening. And that is something that all of us as parents have to begin doing. We have to start thinking of different ways to approach this family, this blended family. We have to start thinking of different ways to approach our partners, to approach ourselves and our self-work and what we do. I study a lot of different speakers. I study a lot of different step parenting magazines, bonus this and step that, and people that refer to themselves as gurus, and they have these blogs and they invite people on. And it's funny that the advice that is given is really almost always centered around like things that only matter in the long run, not things that matter right now. There are not a people in my position that talk and advocate the self-work. It's important. It really is. Let me just tell you something. If I was to parent my kids the same way my parents parented me, I would not be a parent. Period. Not acceptable anymore. There are certain respectful things and traits and values that I bring to the table that my parents taught me. Of course. But remember, think about that word, personal development and growth. Not word, the phrase, personal development and growth. The first time I heard that, I thought it was a bunch of crap. I was like, what is this shit? Now I know that it's the thing needed in order for me to maintain the man that I've become and the man that I will still become. And that's because I've changed my perception on personal development and growth. So perception is real big, guys. I want you to think about it like this. However you think things should have gone, however you think things are gonna go, they're not. I could tell you everything that I've been through over almost the last 11 years, and it still won't matter because your journey is different than my journey. Here's what I know to be true. Work on yourself first. Got to change that negative talk. You got to change the way you think, change the way you perceive. You got to take a seat and listen to yourself, to others, but more importantly to yourself. Why are you there? I'll constantly ask yourself that question. And we should all have that answer. I'm here because of my beautiful, amazing best friend wife. I'm in this scenario because I love her so much that it is undescribable to me. And everything else is an added benefit. The kids are amazing and I love my children. But the reason that I even stepped into this position is because I fell in love with her. That's my why. That's the reason why I'm here. And the reason why I work. And the reason why I train this. And the reason why I communicate that. Her. So what is your why? Why are you here? And then you have to think, okay, got my why. Now I have to change everything about myself. I have to change my perception on how I thought this journey was going to go. Or what I thought people were going to think of me. Let me make one thing clear here. No matter how hard you try or how good you think you're doing, you can always do better. In the beginning, people are going to value you, love you, respect you, but never tell you. They might never show you. But that's none of your business because you're doing the self-work. See, if you're not doing the self-work, you're going to fall into your own pity party and then you're going to wonder why nobody's paying attention to poor old you. Trust me. You have to do that self-work. It's just you have to change your perception because like I just said, the journey, how you think it's going to go, it's not going to happen. What you want to happen won't happen. And everything that will happen that's going to be great as a stepdad will happen out of nowhere, randomly, where you're like, oh, wow, everything I'm doing is working. So perception is key. Perception is big. Perception is the fuel to keep your engine going. Change your perception on the way you think step parenting should be. Change your perception on the way you think a marriage should be. Change your perception on the way you think a father and a dad should be. Change your perception. And the only way you can change your perception is to admit to yourself that you need to start looking at things differently. You gotta, think about it. Imagine if more step parents started off their journey assuming that everybody was gonna love them and they were gonna be respected and loved and that they weren't gonna fight against anybody and that there was no negative description behind the word step. Imagine how many families would be happier. Well, imagine how many families would have never lost that man that came into their life that probably should have been there, but because he was so busy in his feelings and so busy wondering why nobody's respecting or valuing him, that he left. Now, also imagine perception. This goes to the bio parents that are about to experience a step parent coming into their world. You have to change your perception on them as well. If you are so anxious or you feel like something is going to happen with, like, for instance, in my scenario, being a stepdad, 4 girls, I'm going to let you guys play that out. How did grandparents, especially grandmom and family members think about me? No kids, boom, 4 girls. Step, their perception of step, abuser, pedophile, or, alcoholic, you name it. So they saw me through the lens of their ignorance instead of give me the benefit of the doubt that I needed in order to maintain my desire to stay there. Now, thank God I had already done the self-work. Therefore, when that did happen, I was able to just move out of the way because none of it mattered. And this goes for a lot of the step parents out there that are having problems with the bio parents. They're being negative or they talk bad about you or behind your back. Listen, it's none of your business. Let them, you can't stop them from doing it. And the moment you give in to their whining and crying and bitching and moaning, they win. You lose because then you let it in the front door and it infects the house and you lose. Always, no matter what. You can only control what happens within the 4 doors of your home. And you can only control it if you change your perception of the way things are going to be. Don't expect the worst, don't expect the best, just expect. Expect work on yourself, expect the work on your relationship. Hey, stepdads, let me make something very clear. We get it. You jumped in, you're amazing, you're wonderful, you're awesome, and you feel like your entire objective is to get the kids to kind of value you and love you. Don't forget about mom. Don't forget about the reason you walked in that door. You have to put the work in on your relationship. You have to put the work in on each other. Trust me when I tell you that any scenario that is negative or any fire that has started is better handled as a team rather than individuals. You have to remember that. It's important. So change your perception on the way you think that things are going to go. Your journey is going to be crazy. It's going to be all up and down. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen, but you can prepare yourself. And the preparation begins with you. Preparation begins with that self-work. So perception is going to be the fuel that keeps that engine going. Okay, so episode 56. Again, like, subscribe, share. Man, I love doing this. You know why I love doing this so much? My wife asked me this last night. Why I love talking about this so much. I love talking about it so much because it works, guys. It just does. If I was to allow my childhood and the way I was raised and the people that I was raised around, if I was to allow that to run my life, I definitely wouldn't have this show and I definitely wouldn't be a successful stepdad. Everything that I tell you to do, the ideas and suggestions that I give you, it works. It works because I used them and it worked. And the crazy thing about it is that there is no end game. I'm not assuming that this ends at any time. There's constant work that needs to be done with yourself, and that is outside of being a step parent. So I do this show because I care generally. I genuinely care about your journey. I genuinely care about your success. I genuinely care about the way people see you, stepdad, because you are valued. You are awesome. It just takes time. Be patient and change your perception. Till next time, guys. Talk to you soon.
Your blue sky. I go to war, fight. Damn right. Even when I've left, I do right by you.
fire on the set, please. Thank you, everybody.